be walking us through and periodically stopping and asking for questions. If you do have a question, click on the chat icon at the bottom of your screen and type in your question, and she'll answer it promptly. Also, at the end of the training, she will unmute everyone, and then you can ask questions at the end as well. At that, Taylor, I'll hand it over to you. And this meeting is being recorded, so you all know. It will be posted on the McColly YouTube training channel in McCollyNet. Okay, thank you, Taylor.
Awesome, thank you so much. As Monica mentioned, I will be muting everyone right now. If you have questions, please chat those over in the Zoom chat window. We want to make sure the recording is perfect and loud. You can hear me loud and clear, so we're reducing the background noise there. At the end, as Monica mentioned, we will unmute everyone, so you'll have plenty of time to ask questions. To introduce myself, my name is Taylor Grossman. I am an Enterprise Account Manager at SkySlope. I have been with the company for roughly 3 years now, training brokerages just like McColly Real Estate how to utilize SkySlope in their day-to-day business. What we're going to be talking about today is really how you as agents can utilize zipForm and DigiSign within the SkySlope platform. We'll be walking through how you can complete your forms, get your client signatures on those forms, and then quickly cover how to turn in your documents. Those are really the basics within the SkySlope platform. So again, as you have questions when we're going through, make sure to use that chat window. I'll pause periodically and answer those questions. Let's dive into the platform. Here on my screen, you are seeing my demo account. It will look different for you, as you know, when you log in. It's fully branded to McColly. But where we're going to start today is that zipForm integration. If you have not logged into SkySlope or set up that integration yet, the first time you log in, you'll see a pop-up window. It asks you for your zipForm username and password. As soon as you set those username and password, you'll have access to your zipForm account directly within the SkySlope system.
Taylor, could you show them in SkySlope where they would do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So inside of SkySlope, if you click your name in the upper right, My Account, there's also this Integrations tab. So if you exit out of that pop-up, you can come here instead. This allows you to enable your zipForm credentials, set your username and password. Once you save that, you'll be all set to access zipForms within SkySlope. Now, where you access zipForms inside of SkySlope is right here in the Working Documents section. So in the lower right, for Working Documents, we're first taken into this Personal Documents section. But as you can see, there's this zipForm Plus tab right here at the end. Now, once we set those credentials as we just showed you, you'll have access to all of your existing zipForm transactions here on the left, and then all of those forms within those transactions right in the center. So this is really a window from your SkySlope account right into your zipForm account. Anything that you do in zipForms will be reflected here in SkySlope and vice versa. Today we'll walk through this as sort of a scenario. I'm working with a client of mine named George, and he wants to, let's say, sell a property. My first step is to get my forms completed. So if I come here into the zipForm section, I can create my zipForm Plus file without even leaving SkySlope. We'll title this George and include the property address. We'll enter that address in here as well. Property out in Charleston, South Carolina. And then I can create. So this is sort of like my zipForm cover sheet, just entering in some basic information. And then I can pull in forms from my zipForm library. Now again, keep in mind this is just my demo account, so these documents will look slightly different for you. But we'll start by pulling in my cover sheet and let's see, maybe that listing contract. Once I add, I can see that that new transaction is open here for George and 29 Lagar Street. And I have the 2 documents I've just pulled in. As a best practice, we typically recommend to fill out the cover sheet in zipForms. That allows all of your future forms to auto-populate. We can also select these contract names, and it opens up our zipForm account right here and shows me what that document is. Now, not only does it show me what the document is, I can actually complete the contract again here within SkySlope. So let's start by getting our client's name in there. We'll work with Mr. George Clooney today. Our listing date is today. We can put an expiration date in there if we want to. And then I'll throw in a price. Now, you're familiar with filling out your zipForm contract, so you'll go through here and enter all of the terms of the agreement as you typically would. You can come all the way through and scroll through these pages. Once we're ready, we can save and do the same process for any additional forms that we want to send out with this listing contract. Once we've completed the forms, we are ready to move into that second step that I mentioned of getting our client's signatures on these forms. So when I take this listing contract, I select it, I can access DigiSign. Now, DigiSign is SkySlope's digital signature tool. It's integrated within the SkySlope platform. So what that means is when you send out documents using zipForm and DigiSign, they automatically arrive back within SkySlope for you. Our first step here is to select, where we want these documents to arrive back to. I can search for an address if I want to, but if I'm just starting to work with George, we haven't created a file in SkySlope yet, I can select No Property here in the upper right-hand corner. In this next screen, I see my listing contract that we pulled in from zipForms. And then on the right-hand side, I have the ability to choose a template. Now, if you're using DigiSign, I definitely recommend using DigiSign templates. What those do is they save the placement of all of our signatures and initials on the documents that we are frequently sending out. So I can find my correct template there for my listing contract and apply. And then move on into the next question here, which is for my recipients and signing order. I'm logged into my account, so I'm automatically included at the top. And I have the ability to enter 2 sellers here. We're working with just George to sell his property today, so I'll unselect that secondary recipient and enter George's info here. So George Clooney, I'll enter his email address. And then on the right-hand side, once I've entered that contact info, I can set up a signing order. If I want to sign the document after George has signed, make sure to confirm everything is correct. I can add a signer group and then just drag my name into that Who Signed Second section. That would send the document to George first, he signs, and then the document comes over to me. Now, if I put us both in the top section for who signs first, the document is sent to both of us at the same time, and we can sign in any specific order. If anyone here works with an assistant or maybe a team, and you want someone else to receive that fully executed copy once it's ready, you can add them as a recipient and put them in this bottom section. Once the document's fully signed, they receive that copy. Now, moving into the tool itself, we have a handful of different options we can place on our document here: a signature, initials, date signed, so on and so forth. And then we have this preview of our zipForm document that we just completed back a moment ago. I can confirm that my terms are correct that I've entered. And as I scroll through, I'm ready to place my initial blocks. You can see that there's already some initials placed on this form. That pulled in from the template in DigiSign that we just applied. So again, using those templates really saves you time by auto-populating these blocks here. Moving to the next page, we have George's signature and date. There's myself as the agent. Looks like I need to add a date. So to do that, it's very easy. Select the tool at the top that you want to utilize. In this case, it's a date signed. I select the document and then just drag it in place and select my name from that drop-down menu. That shows that I'll be dating in this area. Once you've gone through all of your contracts that you've included here and confirmed that the placement of these signature blocks are correct, we're ready to send it over to George for a signature. Can make sure he knows these are his listing documents, and we'd like him to please sign, and then send for a signature. Right away, we get this positive affirmation, woohoo, that was easy. And we can actually save some time for ourselves and sign the document right away. Here, we're ready to make sure our name and initials are correct. We can select any signature style that I want to utilize, and then come into the document itself. Now, we've reviewed the terms again in the zipForm section, as well as when we were compiling this DigiSign document. So once we've confirmed everything's correct, we just click Start on the left. That automatically moves us through the document and stops where we need to take an action. And I simply single click, and it drops my signature in place. Once I've completed signing, I submit, and I'm taken right back here into DigiSign. Now, that was going through the first step of completing our forms using zipForms, and then sending out the document for a client signature. Now, before I switch gears and go into what it looks like for our clients to sign the document, I'm going to pause and see if any questions have come in so far. Again, if you do have questions, go ahead and chat those over in the Zoom chat window. Okay, so a question came through. If you find an error, if you find you have an error, can you go back to correct? Absolutely. So once you send out these DigiSign documents, they'll live here in the Sent tab. There's my listing documents that I've signed. We're also still waiting on George to sign. But if I need to correct something in this DigiSign document, I can select Edit or Resend here. I can, of course, edit the email addresses that I've entered. But if I need to correct anything from a signature placement or an initial, I can correct the envelope here. That takes me right back into the envelope we were just looking at. Keep in mind, if you do make corrections and the individuals have already signed, they will be prompted to go back and initial by each of those changes. We'll wait about another minute for any other questions. So if you have them on what we've covered so far, feel free to chat those over again in the Zoom chat window. Okay, I don't see any other questions coming through, so we'll go ahead and move forward. Again, as you have those questions, feel free to chat them over and I'll answer those as we're going. But again, let's switch gears here back on my screen to seeing what our clients see when they're signing the documents. From within their email, they'll receive the email from you as the agent, showing them the listing documents in this example. It is fully branded to McColly, so they'll see the McColly logo here, any message that you write, and they can review and sign. What's great about this for the clients is not only can they sign on their computer, but they can, with a tap of their finger on their phone, open these emails, select their signature, and then move into the document. They'll be able to manually scroll through here to make sure all those terms that you've put together for them are correct. And then the same thing on the left, they select Start when they're ready. As they're moving through the document, they just place their initials with a single click, again, or a tap of a finger, and then they've completed signing. Once the clients submit, they do have the ability here to download their copy of the document. Oftentimes, clients are out and on the go when they're signing. So that an email is also sent to them with the signed documents, so they can always come back to it later on. A copy of this email is also sent to you as the agent, so you'll know exactly when your documents have been signed by your clients using DigiSign. Back here in SkySlope, let me just recap really quickly. We started by completing our zip forms within working documents, and then we utilized DigiSign to get our clients' signatures on those documents. Once you receive that all signed email, you know that your documents are completed. You're really ready to turn those in. At this point, not only do you have access to those signed documents in your email, you can also access those back where we started in working documents. So our files arrive right back here into the system. They first come into personal documents. This is a completely private storage area that is unique to you. There's no storage limit. So it's sort of like your own personal Dropbox account right here within SkySlope. Once those documents are signed, they come right back here into personal documents. As you can see, this listing contract that we had George sign, it came right back here into the system for us. There's a question that came through, so I'll look over to the chat. What if a document is set to writable? Can the client make changes? Yes, within DigiSign, there are fields that are called writable fields. If you select the writable fields on the document and assign those to the client, they can fill in their own information. So if you're sending them a form that they need to provide additional detail on, go ahead and use those writable. If you need to write your own information on the document and you don't do that within zipForms, you can utilize the writable field. However, it's just the same. You assign it to yourself instead of the client. That way they can't make any changes to the text that you've written. That was a great question. Now back on my screen, we have that listing contract I mentioned back here in SkySlope. For some cases, if we're working with buyers maybe, and we don't have an offer accepted yet, what we recommend is create a folder for your buyer and then a subfolder for their offers. That way you can keep things nice and organized here before turning in that documentation to your transaction files. Now for our listings, we have our listing contract here. So once my listing file is created in SkySlope, I can select my documents and click Assign. What that's doing is that's taking the documents that we had George sign and moving them out of personal documents and into a listing file that I've created. We can search through here, find his file, select the correct file, and then there's the option to assign over on the right-hand side. That takes the documents out of my personal documents section and puts them in the property file. Now I'll go to the property file in just a moment and show you where those documents go. There's a couple more questions that have come in. Can you email the signed documents to the other agent? Absolutely. What I would recommend is when you're using DigiSign, add the agent on the other side as a receives a copy. So where I mentioned you could add an assistant, you can also add the agent on the other side. Just as an example, what I'm going to do is I'll send out a document here using DigiSign so that we can actually look at this on my screen. So this will be familiar. We're moving back through that DigiSign process. We select a property file if we need to, or no property. There is our listing documents that we selected. Again, we could apply the template if we need to. But here in the recipient section, we have myself, but let's say we have maybe the seller and we want to include the agent on the other side. What I do is select new recipient. Let's select, here's another individual. The role, we can select maybe agent on the other side. But the type here, they don't need to sign. What they'll be doing is they'll be receiving a copy. That sends a copy here to this other agent as soon as the fully executed document is complete. So you can go that route. Another option is right from personal documents. You can just email that signed document right over to them. Another question that came through, how do you have the client mark 1 out of 3 boxes on disclosures? It's a great question as well. Since we're here, let's move into the tool itself. And we'll scroll through. And just for an example, I'll place a few checkboxes here. This checkbox tool within DigiSign, we can place 1, assign that to the client if there was a client here. Same thing for the next option. So if there's 3 various options that the agent needs to select one of, they'll be able to see those 3 checkboxes when they're signing and select one of the 3. They don't have to mark all 3 because the checkboxes are not required. So they'll be able to select the correct option on various disclosures. There's great questions coming through, so make sure to keep them coming. As we just did, we went into personal documents and we assigned the signed listing contract from George over into our property file. The property files in SkySlope are our listings here when we're working with sellers. And then the transactions when we're working with buyers. Now right here at the top, I can simply search for the address I was working on, which was 253 Rose Lane. That's where I sent my documents. Once I'm in the file, I can jump right to the Documents tab. And right at the top, there's that standard listing contract that just came in. So again, I assigned that from my personal document section over into the property file. What's great about this is oftentimes you are sending multiple different documents to your clients for a signature. Maybe a listing contract, a lead paint disclosure, or various agency disclosures. What you can do is you can actually split those documents apart here in the system so we can finish that last step of turning in our documents. In this case, we just sent a standard listing contract to George. So right on my checklist, I can find the listing agreement, which is what I sent. We'll remove that one that I had there previously. It's a required item. Once I select Attach, it shows me all of those documents that are in my Documents tab already. And right at the top, there's the standard listing contract. I can make sure that it's correct by just opening it up here. And once I'm ready, Assign on the right. It takes that document and turns it into my checklist, which is really like bringing it right over to the broker's desk and turning that document in. So that's that last step of turning in the documents using zipForms, DigiSign, to then sending them into our property file here. Now there's another question that came through. Can agents search by MLS since SkySlope now syncs with MRED and GNIAR, our specific MLSs? It's a great question. So once you are inside of SkySlope and you're creating your listings, what happens here is you're introduced to Sky. Once we proceed, we're asked the property address. So rather than searching by the MLS number in this case, we can search by the property address itself. 253 Rose Lane. That was in Costa Mesa. My address auto-populates, that pulls in from Google Maps. And once I proceed, if Sky finds my listing information in my specific MLSs, it's automatically presented here to me. So that's where the MLS information is pulling in, is through Sky when you're searching the address through listings. What this allows you to do is auto-populate a lot of the fields that you're required to enter when you're walking through the creation process. So it saves some time on that double data entry. Now, we've covered the 3 steps that I wanted to talk about. There is really one other tool that I want to make sure that you know when you're using zipForms and DigiSign to save you even additional time. We talked about working documents where we access zipForms right here in the last tab. When we're sending out these documents, in this case, we'll use that same example from George. When I send out my listing contract and click DigiSign, the first time around, I selected no property file here. That would mean I don't have a property, a listing, or a transaction created yet within SkySlope. That sends the signed documents back to my personal documents section for me to organize. Now, to save time for future documents, such as all of those disclosures you're having clients complete, you can select your property address here from this list. Once the document is fully executed, it goes right back to your property file in that Documents tab. So it skips a whole step of moving your documents from personal documents to the property file. So again, that's that option here of selecting an address versus no property. Now, I want to make sure that you know every single thing that we covered today has a tutorial associated with it in the support section. So make sure to keep that in mind. We'll have plenty of time at the end of the session today to answer all of the outstanding questions. But make sure to utilize our 24/7 support team. They are in the office with us around the clock and can answer any questions that you may have outside of these types of training sessions. So what we'll do now is we'll head into the Q&A portion of this session. I know there's another one that came through the chat, but we'll also be unmuting everyone. If you prefer to stay muted and chat in questions, that's fine as well. But I have unmuted everyone, and I'll start with the last question that came through the chat. Specifically, can you search by MLS number in the search field at the top? That's a great question. So here in this magnifying glass, you can search by the address, agent, or client. I don't believe you can search by MLS number, but I haven't tried it. So what I'll do is I will figure out one of these files' MLS number, and I will try and search it. There's for a file, and we're using the search here at the top. Okay, it does not look like you can search by MLS number, so it would just be the address, agent, or client in this top search section. Another question that came through the chat, can you go over how to create a template? Yes, absolutely. So inside of DigiSign, there's a few different ways that you can create templates of documents. Again, that's that stencil that saves the placement of your signatures and initials and whatnot. So once we're inside of DigiSign, we have a few different options. Right here, we're first taken to the Completed tab. At the top is the listing documents I just sent out to George, and we both have signed. If I come back later on and realize that I haven't created a template of this document, I can select to create a template here that uses all of the signatures and initials I pre-placed on this document and puts them into their own separate template for me to use in future scenarios. You can also do that within the Sent tab by creating a template here. And then the last option is, of course, there's a Templates tab. Here within this section, we have previously made templates where we can create a new template. At this point, we need to name our document. Let's say this is a listing app package. The great thing here is I can add a description if I want to make sure I know what this is. I could add the specific form name from zipForm if that's easier for me to search by. But I can also share these templates out with other people. So if I create a template, I can share it with other users. So we don't all have to kind of recreate the wheel each time. Now I upload a document here in this section. Let's find a listing packet as an example and upload. The great thing about this document is it does not have to be blank. It can be a pre-populated form with previous information. All I need to know is where these signatures and initials go. So over on the right, I can add in a subject and a message. When we were sending this email out to George, the subject, we put listing documents, and then we wrote a message. If you want that pre-populated, you can add that here. And then we're ready to note who would be signing this document. That's the roles. So the roles are the various people who will be signing the document. If you as the agent are signing, you can select yourself, so me. We can add in maybe a few sellers, maybe 2 sellers. The great thing is if your document that you're sending out does not have 2 sellers, it only has 1, that secondary seller block, it will automatically be removed. So it saves you more time here with adding multiple sellers. Now, moving into the tool itself, we have, again, those same tools, just like we walked through when we were actually sending the document.
Would probably, regardless,
I think there's a little bit of background noise coming in from someone, so I'm going to mute that one person, but feel free if you have questions to unmute yourself. So as we scroll through the document, again, the info on this document doesn't matter. It's just the placement of these fields that we need to add. So we'll place initials, or select the initial tool, pardon me. We can place an initial field here for me, and then those initial fields also for seller 1 and seller 2. So you place all of the fields on the document. And let's go down here. We can place, again, more fields throughout the document. We'll just stop it after this page. But we assign them to the correct individuals. So again, seller 1, seller 2, that would be removed if we only are working with one person. And then we could continue throughout the document. Once we have all of the various blocks placed that we need to on this document, we just save in the upper right. We've created our template. We can move into creating another template, or simply head right back here into DigiSign, and there's the listing package template that I just created. There is another question that came through the chat, which is an agent question. Documents have never gone to their personal area of the working documents. What is going wrong? So inside of working documents, this personal documents is unique to each user. How documents come into this section is there's a few different ways. You can, of course, upload documents from your computer. If you have things that you want to store here and organize in different folders. Another option is when you're sending out documents through DigiSign. The way that those signed documents come back here into this section is if we send out the document. Here, let me select one and click DigiSign. If we send this document out via DigiSign and select no property. So when we select no property and the document is fully executed, that's our second way of getting documents into personal documents. So again, uploading directly or selecting no property here in DigiSign. There is a third way to get documents into that personal documents section. Each user actually has their own personal documents email address. So if you have emails that you want to send in with attachments, go to your name in the upper right and select My Account. There is an email address here in this first tab right in the upper right. Should be based on your first name and last name, but that is unique to each user. If you have an email with attachments or you want to send in a bunch of things from your client that they've emailed you, just copy this email address and forward in anything that you need to send in. What's going to happen is every single attachment on that email will be uploaded automatically into your personal documents section. You can email in documents, you can upload directly, or you can select no property from DigiSign and have the documents come into this personal documents section. That's all the questions so far that I've seen come through the chat. I know we have a handful of people unmuted. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Taylor. This has been very informative.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Monica. I want to make sure that everyone gets their questions answered. We have plenty of time that we booked on the calendar. I know for those unmuted, does anyone have any questions?
What is the Office Docs tab for?
Great question. So Office Documents is something we bypassed. But this is an area where the brokerage itself at a higher level can share documents with all of the agents. So if there's any internal forms that you're used to having access to, the brokerage can upload those here into this section. They can organize them by different folders or offices. And then you would have access to these different documents as needed. So again, most of the time they're internal forms. We can, with these internal forms, of course, we can select them and download them to our computer as we need to. But we can also take these forms, assign them over to our property files, or we can send those out for a digital. So it's like a filing cabinet inside of the office that you walk over to, you grab some paperwork that you need. That's this Office Documents section. We have another question that came through the chat. What about assigning an order to signed docs? It doesn't seem to follow the order I assign when I have tried. For signing the documents, let me go through that example really quickly. Come here to zipForms, send out that contract again with DigiSign. Select, here we'll select a property file this time. We have our listing contract as well as any other document already in that file. But the contacts here, we have myself and this seller. If I want to set up a signing order, what you'll just want to make sure you do is, after you add the signer group, just drag the names into the Who Signed Second section. Or if there's multiple individuals, you can add more groups. As long as the blocks or the signing order, pardon me, is set up such as this, who signs first, who signs second, and so on, what's going to happen is you'll receive that ability to sign the document first. Once you have signed, and only once you've signed, in this case, Sam would receive a document that says, please sign from DigiSign, and he can sign. Same thing if there's additional signing orders, but you would just want to make sure that the names are in the correct section here. If you're all in the top under who signs first, it won't have any specific signing order. Perfect. So I'm glad that helped, Carrie. Another note in there is I have a hard time dragging the names. Sometimes it can be tricky. As long as you have that those 4 arrows there, you should be able to drag around where you need to. Another thing that you can do if you have a hard time dragging the names is under the recipients here on the left-hand side, we can edit them and change the signing order. So if we want them to sign in a different order, we could add those signer groups and then have them sign in a separate section. So here they would be signing second instead of first. And then it automatically drops them into the right place. Another question that came through, does the SkySlope app display zip forms on the mobile version? On the SkySlope app, it does not display the zip form integration. What you can do is you can go into the mobile browser on your phone, and then you can access your SkySlope account just as normal, and then send out those zip form documents if you need to. Another question that came through the chat, once you receive a DigiSign contract from an outside agent via email, how do you make a change and resend to second party for a signature? That's a great question. If another agent is sending you a document in DigiSign and you've signed it and you've received the all signed email, since that individual sent that document out for a signature, you wouldn't be able to edit the initial DigiSign envelope. What you would want to do is download those fully executed copies or those necessary documents, and you could upload those into DigiSign. So if we come back here and we select, we'll say no property, the documents that we've downloaded, we can drag and drop them on the screen or select to upload them here. That would allow us to send out our own version of the document to a second party or whatnot. There's a lot of really great questions coming in. So again, if you are unmuted, feel free to voice your questions, or if you're chatting over, keep them coming. Okay, I haven't seen any other questions coming yet, so we'll give it about another minute. So if anyone has any questions, definitely feel free to let me know.
Yeah. That's funny that we were, like, if they came back 37, like, oh, we didn't make our numbers. I liked it.
There's a great question that just came through for the personal document section. Inside of Working Docs, that personal section that we mentioned, the question is, can we use the personal section of Working Docs to practice or no, since nothing can be deleted? That's a great point. The only place that things can truly be deleted inside of SkySlope is within your own personal document section. This is unique to every single user. Again, it's sort of like a Dropbox account for you, but it's no storage limit. So if you want to play around and practice using zip forms to DigiSign to personal documents, you can test documents here. And if you need to, you can delete them. This is, again, the only place in SkySlope you can delete things, but feel free to do some tests here with these sections. And a really great question that came in, how are feature suggestions handled? So inside of the support center, so in the upper right, that icon with the headset, we have our support team, all their smiling faces here. Typically, you can reach out to them for questions and tutorials and whatnot. But you also have this ability to make feature suggestions. Feature suggestions I highly recommend using you are in the system most often using it firsthand, and if you have great ideas, submit them here as feature suggestions. What happens here is our CEO, Tyler Smith, he monitors these personally. So every single time that someone has a suggestion and whatnot, he looks at these personally, asks further questions. In this case, we have someone who wants a more reporting functionality. There's Tyler, our CEO, again, asking, what are the types of reports you'd like to see? I have agent productivity, bet there's more you want to find that would be helpful. So what he'll do is he'll ask further questions, and if these are really great ideas and they're fit within SkySlope and what our company stands for and represents, we will start to implement those within the product and development roadmap. So he monitors those again. So if you have questions and you want to talk to him directly, just submit those feature suggestions and he will follow up with you. All right, so it doesn't look like any other questions are coming through. I think that is probably a great note to end on. Again, support is your best friend. Reach out to them with any additional questions you have. We did record this entire training session. So as Monica had mentioned in the beginning, it will be posted on the McColly website. So if you want access to that, absolutely follow up there, and we will most likely schedule further sessions just like this to learn more about SkySlope. For now, thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, and happy SkySloping.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you so much.